Shearer, who wrote about Kivalina's legal case in her book, Kivalina, A Climate Change Story. She's also program manager for Coalswarm. She joins us from San Francisco. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
First of all, Christine, maybe you can give us a sense of where exactly Kivalina is in the world.
Kivalina is in the northwest of Alaska, above the Arctic Circle. It's a bit remote, so just to give a sense to the listeners out there, when I traveled there from California, I went to Anchorage, and from there I took another plane to a town called Kotzebue, and from there I took a cargo plane to Kivalina. And before boarding the cargo plane, they did ask me my weight. So it was a little plane, and Kivalina is on a very thin barrier reef island between the Chukchi Sea and the Kivalina Lagoon.
Colleen, tell us about the people who live there and what they do.
The people of Kivalina rely mostly on what the environment, what the land provides for in terms of food, and basically it's been our way to make a living for hundreds of years. So whenever the ocean, especially the ocean, during the winter months, the ice is part of our landscape because we go out there and we set up camps and hunt, and it's all seasonal. So we were able to see the changes years ago.
Christine, tell us more about why the island is disappearing. What exactly is happening to it?
Well, because of global warming from greenhouse gas emissions, the Arctic is warming about twice as fast as the global average. And so sea ice is forming on the coastline later and later in the year. And the lack of sea ice is making the island vulnerable to erosion from storms that occur pretty regularly in the fall. And on top of that, the lack of sea ice means there's more heat in the water in the air to increase the power of the storms when they hit the island. And so that's contributing to erosion.
And Colleen, you have said that you've seen these changes for years. When was your first clue that things really were different there?
During the various seal hunting season, which happens in May, June, and July, the men go out hunting while there's still ice out there, because the seal obviously needs to have a resting place. All sea mammals do, who, like the seals and the bears, the polar bears. And so we had, every year we cut up the berry seal, dry them up, store them for the winter, and that provides the winter supply, and that's what keeps us warm in the Arctic. So at first, like maybe about 15 years ago, the season started 2 weeks early. And we didn't notice at first the gradual change until it became 2 weeks early, consistently from year to year, and now it's at a point where we can't really tell, so our hunters remain vigilant. You keep an eye on things. That's what our hunters do. They keep an eye on the weather, on the ice, on the season, because if we don't, we miss the season. And we've seen a lot of changes over the years. The hardest one to swallow was the fact that our ice wasn't safe anymore for us to set up grading camps.
The ice isn't safe, but then also the worry about the impact of these storms and the sea level rise. How big an impact has that been?
Our people, we just had a minor storm last fall, and I'm one of the first responders if anything goes wrong, so I keep an eye on things too. And when we got that storm last fall, I decided I'm just going to go sleep. I'm tired, worried. I want to get some rest. And the next morning when I woke up, I saw the impacts from minor
is a small town in Alaska that faces the prospect of being underwater as soon as 2025. We're also speaking with Christine Shear, who wrote a book about Kivalina. And this lawsuit, Christine, that you mentioned earlier, maybe you can talk about the basis for that 2008 lawsuit, which now it seems has gone nowhere. Tell us a little bit more about what the villagers were looking for and why this legal battle came to an end.
Sure. In 2008, Kivalina filed a legal claim against 24 fossil fuel companies for public nuisance, which is unreasonable harm. And they charged them for being amongst the world's largest contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. And what they were seeking was damages. There needed relocation. Because by that point, several government reports had stated that Kivalina needed to be relocated due to climate change. And so they were seeking their relocation costs. And then they charged a smaller subset of the companies with conspiracy and concerted action for attempting to create a false debate around climate change science. And in their lawsuit, they cited internal documents from companies showing that they had funded studies not to improve the science of climate change, but to deliberately create doubt and confusion about the issue. And in doing that, they took a playbook straight out of tobacco.
Colleen, your village originally voted to relocate as far back as 1992. Is it just cost? Is that why this hasn't happened yet?
Yes, it is mainly cost because of the comparison to the sea level. So there's word that it is flood prone, the site that the people selected, but it's not. The history goes way back. Our people's knowledge goes way back hundreds of years.
Are you looking for help from the federal government? We understand the Secretary of the Interior visited Kivalina earlier this week. What was the visit about, and what did you hope to come out of it?
The visit was mainly about getting information from hunters and elders about the environment, and the visit was very timely because of the reason why our case got thrown out of court. Because they said this was a political question, and so we have no choice but to go back to the government. And they, whenever we bring up relocation or climate change and ask where do we go to talk about this with the government, and the reply always is, there is no agency set up to address those two questions.
And Christine, talk more about that. I mean, what kind of structure is in place for a community like this facing this issue? Where do they get help?
Yeah, that's exactly the problem. So for disaster management, most of the policies are around after a disaster occurs and a disaster declaration is made that releases some funding, and then it's usually to help a community relocate where they already are at. But with a community like Kivalina, they need to be moved, they need to be relocated. And we don't really have the policies in place to relocate a community, and we don't have a federal agency in charge of that. And so it's really fallen on the people of Kivalina and other Alaska Natives in a similar situation to try to put that together themselves, and that's quite a task. And so, if anything, I hope the visit from the Interior Secretary helps put that into motion and starts making this happen. We need that in terms of climate adaptation policies.
Colleen, we have just a moment left, but I wonder if your village had to move, would things be much better elsewhere? I mean, all of your region there is changing so fast.
I asked this question about 10 years ago, because Alaska is about 70% wetlands, and, probably the best way to move to would be on top of mountains, but that can't be done. So, you build up the ground with a gravel pad, and that was our intent, but the cost is very high, and then the permafrost is melting, so there would have to be some consideration given to that to make sure that whatever gravel pad you put doesn't melt the permafrost.
And Christine Shear, do you see other instances of towns like this? And could another lawsuit like this potentially bring attention to communities like Kivalina?
I think in terms of climate change, inevitably the damages are going to keep increasing. More communities, more cities, more states, more to settle and to keep fighting these lawsuits.
Christine Shears, author of Catalina, A Climate Change Story. Thanks so much for joining us, and thanks to Colin Swan, Catalina's relocation coordinator and a member of the city council there. You can find photos of Catalina at our website. Go to sciencefriday.com/Alaska. Coming up, more impacts from climate change in a place even further north in Alaska. This is Science Friday from PR.
Support for KQED comes from Mighty Mite Termite Services, the Bay Area termite and pest experts. Mighty Mite eliminates termite and pest problems using the latest techniques in integrated pest management. More at MightyMiteTermite.com. Sleep training featuring pillows made from memory foam, down, latex, and down alternative to fit any sleep style and preference. Pillow options are available at sleeptrain.com. Coming up later today on the California Report magazine, you might say Silicon Valley is in the tomorrow business. Today, tune in for a whole show about the place that's reinventing the future. Coming up on the California Report magazine at 4:30, 6:30 this evening, and 11 p.m. tonight on KQED Public Radio.
This is Science Friday. I'm John Daniels. Down here in the lower 48, if temperatures heat up a few degrees, do you really feel it? You know, springtime temperatures go from, say, 71 to 73 degrees. It doesn't really change your wardrobe much. But up in the Arctic, those few degrees can entirely restructure an ecosystem based around that all-important temperature of 32 degrees Fahrenheit. In ice, which forms shells for seals, feeding zones for fish, hunting areas for bears, can disappear one season to the next. Springtime snow showers can turn into frigid rain and set the stage for climate change winners and losers. My next guests have been working with wildlife for decades in the Alaskan Arctic, and they've seen some of those changes firsthand. Cheryl Rosa is a wildlife veterinarian and biologist and deputy director of the United States Arctic Research Commission in Anchorage, Alaska. She joins us from Alaska Public Media today. Welcome to Science Friday, Dr. Rosa.
Thank you. It's nice to be on.
And George Boki is an ornithologist and director of Friends of Cooper Island, based in Seattle. Welcome to Science Friday, Dr. Boki.
Hello, John.
If you want to give us a call, our number is 844-724-8255. It's 844-SCI-TALK. You can always tweet us at Sci-Fi. George Boki, I'd like to go to you first. You've been working on the Arctic for like 40 years now. You make camp at a place called Cooper Island. Can you explain exactly where this is and what it's like there?
Cooper Island is a small island 20 miles east of Point Barrow, and I went there in 1975 because I found a small colony of seabirds that I started studying, and because seabirds are long-lived birds, I kept the study going so I could look at their lifetime success, and I kept the study going for 40 years as a result. It started off just as a bird study and became a climate change study because the climate changed so rapidly in the past 15 years.
Explain some of the things that you've seen change